Hey, good evening, everybody. Are you ready for a dose of compassionate connection? You've got your West Coast and East Coast facilitators tonight, and we'd love to hear where you're dialing in from, because I know I get people from basically around the world here. So, hello, Gretchen, and hello, everybody else there. And tonight is a critical conversation about how do you take painful conversation and turn it into compassionate connection, because almost every relationship's going to have conflicts. There's going to be misunderstandings, arguments, upsets, all the rest of that happening. And the thing is, what you do with it will either bring you closer or drive you apart. So tonight, and then we'll introduce ourselves, we are going to dive into conflict, what it is, what starts it, what makes it worse, what resolves it, and what are some next steps if you want to have a better handle on it. So what I'd love to do, and thank you for LA, this was down there like a week ago. I'd love to hear what triggers conflict for you and in your life and in your relationships. So, and I'm going to introduce Candace, and Candace, maybe you and I could share boldly what triggers you and it starts conflict for you. And how did you get in this business? Give a 2-second introduction on yourself, and then what trips your triggers?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Candace of the Temple of Frolic, and I am also a love coach. And I didn't really have a map. I did not have the training, the internal programming, and what I was given wasn't really working. So initially, I found myself here for my own healing, and then just it landed elsewhere into helping others. I would say, like, what I'm referring to is internal conflict. As well as not knowing how to navigate relationships with others and having a background and a history of trauma. There was a big period of time where I had many triggers that could trigger conflict.
So wait 1 second, Candace. People who know the show know I interrupt periodically, but you said something kind of quickly, and it's a really important thing that we don't talk about that much. There's external conflict, and we're always talking about that. But depression, upset, a lot of these other challenges, if you're not feeling happy, a lot of that has to do with what you just brought up, which is internal conflict. So we want to talk about both of those today. And I want people to think about which one is a bigger issue if you dealt with it right now. Is your internal conflict or your external conflict? So I'm going to hand it back to you in 1 second. And first, I'm going to say one thing. If you want to be successful in life, you learn how to communicate with others. If you want to be happy, you learn how to communicate with yourself and resolve those internal conflicts. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Candace, but you touched on something there that I think is important for everybody to think about. Which one triggers the most problems, internal or external?
Yeah. And, for me, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because it's like the reality is like it's my internal conflicts that trigger my external conflicts usually. I may want to point the finger, but like they have that saying, you have one pointing out, you have three more pointing back at you. And the more compassionate we can be with ourselves, the more compassionate we'll be able to be with others. That is for sure. So, yeah, it is a really good point. And right now, I feel like you asked that question about where we're at as far as our internal external conflicts. Like, I don't have a lot of relations going on where I have a lot of external conflicts. But I also think that's due to my own personal internal conflicts. So, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to dive in a little bit. For people who don't know me, I'm Paul Sterling. I've been a relationship and intimacy coach for about 25 years. I wrote a best-selling book, Argue Less, Love More. It's on Amazon. And every once in a while, I give away free copies here to people who stay till the end. I give them as a PDF. And I was once told that you teach what you need to learn. And at first, I heard that sort of as an insult, like, oh, you don't know this stuff. And then I thought about it more and I said, of course. In fact, I look at the things that I need to focus on the most in my life have been relationships, and I've been studying them for probably 35 years and teaching about them for 30 years and coaching couples for maybe over 25 years. So this has been a long journey. And one of the heartbeats of it is, how do we deal with conflict? So there's three core things that I focus on: it's communication, conflicts, and getting your needs met. So we're going to mix all three of those in today. So welcome.
Oh,
There we go. We're back.
okay.
So I'm going to give, just so you know, Candace.
Oh.
The Wi-Fi got funky for a second there.
Yeah, you're going in now, little.
All right. I want to show people first the big map. So this is something, Candace, I've described to you before, but here we go. This is my map of relationships so that people have a picture of it, and then we're going to get into exactly what to do around conflicts. So this is the three circles, Candace, where we have the circle in the lower right is your heart set, the lower left is your skill set, and the top center is your mindset. And in relationships, it's that combination of those three things: your heart set, your skill set, your mindset. We're trying to create lasting love. And in your heart set, it's all about your needs and your relationships. And there's three in a typical relationship. There's a friendship, a partnership, and a lovership. Bouncing over to skills, the skills need to do three things: clear up the past, create, connect and get present, create possibilities for the future. And the last thing that I talk about is your ROS, your mindset. Your ROS is your relationship operating system, and it's made up of your habits, patterns, and beliefs. So this is sort of my model after working on relationships for 25 years. And what we're going to dive into today is the skill sets. How do you resolve conflicts? What they are, what do you do with them? So anything on that model that you want to say, Candace?
What you were sharing just now about the beliefs and the things that make up a relationship operating system.
Habits, patterns, and beliefs.
Yeah, that. All right, I'm blind, guys. So I close my eyes. I have like an internal whiteboard, and so I'll close my eyes to like go in and find it. So for me, like I was sharing, I had so much trauma. Like that was my relationship operating system. Like there was no relating to other humans without being triggered for me. Yeah, it's just, and it was not nice. It was very toxic and icky.
And that's an important thing. We're not going to go too much into this today, but Candace brought up a really important thing: is our ROS, our relationship operating system, gets programmed when we're a little kid, and unless we go in and update it and make it user-friendly, it's full of viruses and incompatibilities and all sorts of sabotaging programs. And it's not just Candace, it's all of us. Unless we get our programming updated, our habits, patterns, and beliefs, a lot of times they're going to sabotage our relationship and we don't even know it. So when we get this wrong, when we get conflict wrong, what happens is, let me change the color here. And this is the same thing, conflict and communication. This particular picture, I've used this before, and I'll use it again. But when we get it wrong, we don't feel heard, understood, and valued. And so what do we do when we don't feel heard, understood, and valued? We get louder, meaner. And the harder we try, the worse it gets. And when we start, so Candace, I'll ask you this one, when somebody yells at you or it says the same thing over and over again or gets really intense, what's your reaction?
I either go inwards or I'm attacking back.
Yeah, so it basically trips your triggers. So
Yeah.
when your partner gets triggered and they behave that way, it trips your triggers. And this is sort of the downward spiral that makes conflict worse and worse. And we end up in a relationship that has constant conflicts in it, and that erodes trust and destroys any chance of intimacy and romance. And then that ends up taking days, weeks, months to recover. So in my marriage, my only marriage, my ex-wife, we were married. We haven't been together for probably over 20 years. But in my marriage, this is embarrassing, so I'm actually going to show up here. I did what my dad taught me. You know, there were a lot of great things my dad taught me, but my dad's, one of his favorite expressions was, the best defense is a strong offense. And if my partner didn't do what I wanted, I withheld love, affection, attention. I was going to, and this is embarrassing to say out loud for a relationship coach, I wasn't at the time, but I was going to punish them into better behavior by withholding love. Now, if some of you can relate to that, men do that, women do that. We withhold our attention, we withhold sex, we withhold a lot of things to punish somebody into better behavior and to let them know that they hurt us. And it would take weeks, months, sometimes to recover from that. And sometimes people never recover from that. Luckily, with my relationship, even though we did get a divorce, we did it pretty amicably. I literally was talking to my ex-wife today on the phone. She's in Florida. We haven't seen each other in probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, probably more than that, but we still have stayed good friends. So if you get it wrong, you end up in this downward spiral. Anything you'd like to say about the downward spiral, Candace?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Like, what are my other responses that are healthy to that? You know, getting it wrong, so to say, or getting it right. Like for me, if I notice someone I'm with is getting heated, and the energy's going somewhere, I would first at least try to acknowledge, like, hey, the energy is shifting. I don't think I can be here right now. I think we need a breather, or, you know, just speak into, you know, the space, what I'm witnessing. And if I need to remove myself from the space, then that's what I need to do.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that because that's one of the beautiful strategies. We're going to talk about yellow light, green light, yellow light, red light. We're going to talk about alert, alarm, attack. What goes on in the brain and in the human nervous system when conflict starts, and what you can do to bring it back into a state of harmony. So you're either exacerbating it, making it worse, or you're calming it down. So if we get it right, and this is another one of my slides here, if we get it right, we speak with courage, compassion, and curiosity. And we're trying to enter somebody else's world so that they feel heard, understood and valued. And a lot of times when conflict gets exacerbated, I probably should get a better word or a different word, but when it gets worse and worse, people aren't feeling heard. Nobody's feeling heard, so they yell louder. So if you look at the protesters for any of the different issues that are up there, and there are really a lot of issues right now, immigration, vaccination, political stuff, all this stuff, there's people on both sides that are getting louder and louder. Why? Because neither of them feel heard, understood, and valued. If you feel heard, well, actually, Candace, before I move on to that, how important is it for you to feel heard, understood, and valued?
Vital. If I'm not feeling those things, it's very hard to feel safe.
Mm.
I don't feel emotionally or even physically safe to pretending on the situation, Yeah.
I'm going to translate that a little bit, and you keep bringing up really important points. So it's like, it's for me, if what I have to say doesn't feel important to the other person, I don't think that I'm important to the other person. Now, that may not be true, but that's how it feels in the moment. And what we're trying to do, and I'll show this in a minute, actually on a chart, but what we're trying to do is avoid getting to the place where our partner or us gets tripped into our reptile brain. Because when we're in our reptile brain, then all we can do is fight, flight, freeze. We're looking at what's safe, what's dangerous. Are you the enemy? Or are you the ally? So I'm going to bring back up the chart. And hey, Kelly, how are you tonight? Glad you're joining us. Hey. So when both of us feel heard, understood, and valued, we start to feel confident that we know how to repair. And it's critical because I don't know any relationship that doesn't have conflicts, upsets, misunderstandings, arguments. But it's not that whether or not we have those, it's how quickly we can repair them. And if we can repair them quickly, our communication builds trust and intimacy. And if you're wondering what happened to your sex life, I'm guessing trust went out and safety went out, and so intimacy goes out.
Same thing if you're a single person. Your relationship to yourself and how intimate you're capable of being with yourself.
Okay. I'm going to back up to that for a second. I'm going to stop. One of my trainers, and I know Candace has studied his stuff too, is a guy named Marshall Rosenberg. I got to know Marshall before he passed on, and he was the creator of nonviolent communication. Now, he said that intimacy, and I want people to listen to this. It took me a while to get this. Intimacy is the ability to enjoy someone else's pain. Now, what Marshall was saying, just so that you can be with me, people, on this one, Marshall was not like a sadist or BDSM or whatever. It was none of that. None of that. But if you think about the opposite, can you enjoy somebody's happiness? If you can enjoy somebody's happiness, you want to be around them when they're happy. If you can't, then you try to suppress them. Like, stop running around the house, stop making noise, stop laughing, stop. You're making me uncomfortable with your happiness, stop. The other side of that is when you're in pain, if I take your pain personally, I'm going to try to stop you from being in pain. If I think that I did something wrong and I start to get uncomfortable, I'd say, Candace, stop being upset because you're upsetting me. I mean, I wouldn't say that in actual words, but my behavior, I'd try to fix her. Is that making sense to people? You know, I'd love to see if that makes sense in there. Now, Candace brought up something. This is sort of my long-winded answer to this simple thing of being intimate with yourself. So if intimacy is the ability to be with or enjoy someone else's pain, intimate with others, can you be with yourself when you're in pain? Or do you go for my drug of choice, Netflix, distract yourself? Do you distract yourself? What do you do when you're in pain? Or can you be compassionate with yourself? So what can you do, Candace, to be intimate with yourself? And hopefully this is making sense to people.
Yeah, and in relationship to the conversation, say, like I mentioned, I have certain triggers that I know about myself. Um, if we know we have certain patterns or habits in our relationship operating system that we're not so proud of, intimacy with oneself would be allowing ourselves to humbly acknowledge those things and sit with the part of ourselves that is hurting and that needs to be heard, seen, or valued,
Mm-hmm.
um, so that it doesn't have to operate in those ways. Um, really, turning that compassion inwards.
Right. There was a great ad, and I normally don't quote ads, but I think it originally came out as Sprint, and it was, "Can you hear me now?" And what happens is, if you think about almost all communications, an act of love or a cry for help, if we don't feel heard, what do we get? Louder. And now sometimes a little thing can accelerate or exacerbate into a big conflict, not because it's a big issue, but because I don't feel heard. And the more that I don't feel heard, the louder I get. And it's like, "Oh, my arm is hurting." And you go, "No, your arm isn't hurting. That was, oh yeah, my arm is really hurting." And so it's like we start to get louder and louder. And if Candace can just be with me for a second, well, let me just do that. Oh, my arm is hurting. So just deny it for a second and let's let that accelerate.
You're making that up.
You only care about yourself. You never listen to me. Like, my arm friggin' hurts right now.
Really, you're being dramatic.
What is wrong with you? How come you can't even just admit that someone else can have pain? It's not all about you.
It's not my problem.
So you can see how intimate that conversation is and where it's headed rapidly. And so sometimes you can turn a conflict around in a heartbeat. So start it that way again, and then just a moment of empathy somewhere in the middle there. "Man, my arm hurts."
So wait, start it still the same way a little?
Yeah, a little, and then change it.
Okay. Oh, you again exaggerating, making things up?
Yeah, no, I was working out on my mountain bike, man. I really jarred my arm. It friggin' hurts.
Well, I guess maybe that makes sense, and I can understand that doing that could hurt you.
Thank you. Oh. See, as soon as she did that, there was nothing for me to push against. So the conflict, she entered my world, and I felt heard, understood. And thank you. Gretchen's going, "I'm so sorry your arm hurts." Yeah. And actually, now it doesn't, but at one point I went over my handlebars and broke my hand, and it really did hurt. So it's like, if you look at it, what's happening in a lot of conflicts is people are begging to be heard, understood, and valued. And when they're met that way, we can rebound from conflicts in minutes. And I love what Einstein said here: we can't solve the problems, We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. And I twisted it a little bit. Hopefully Einstein will forgive me, and said, we can't resolve a conflict by using the same kind of communication we used when we started it.
Mm.
And there's certain conflict promoting communication, and there's conflict reducing communication. And here's a great quote, another quote. How we communicate when we're vulnerable, hurt, afraid, or angry will set the stage for the kind of relationship we create. So, Candace, I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask everybody who's listening in here to answer that question. How do you want communication to go in your relationship when you're feeling hurt or angry or vulnerable or afraid? How do you want the communication to go?
Ideally, I'd like to be able to emote or express and create a safe container for both myself and whomever I feel like I need to be, seen or heard by, so that I can acknowledge the anger or the sadness or whatever it is, and inform the person, if they had something to do with it, how it impacted me.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say that if we set each other up to win, so if I'm going to come to Candace and I want some empathy and understanding, and let me be clear, I don't always do this, but this is like, if I really want to set myself up to win, I would say, Candace, I'm really hurting right now, and I would love like 5 minutes of empathy. Would that work for you? And I don't want any solutions. I don't want you to try to fix my arm or whatever it is that is hurting my heart, my arm. Would you be willing to?
Yes.
See, what I've done is I've set Candace up. She knows what I want, need, and can expect. So I'm going to give you, and Candace, I'm going to tell you what I'm showing. I'm showing a picture of a car tire. So there's 4 different pictures on one page here. One is a car tire that's in great shape. The next one is a warning light that the air in the tire is low. And the next picture is a flat tire. And then there's a picture of a totally destroyed tire where somebody drove on it. What the hell does this have to do with relationships and conflict? So the first tire is when things are basically fine. And then we get warning lights. Like, conflict doesn't just happen. There's little warning lights. And if we ignore the warning lights, what happens is we end up, in this metaphor, with a flat tire. And we need to take action. And if we have a flat tire, it takes a little bit of action, depending on the tire. If it hasn't gone too far, a little bit of action can fix the tire again. But if we drive on that tire, and there's a picture of a truly destroyed, never to be repaired again, never to be driven on tire here. If we drive on that tire, we pass the point of no return. It ends up being too late. And I work with couples all the time that are at that edge. The relationship's got a flat tire, and they're really worried that if they drive on it any longer, they'll hit the point of no return. Now, I'm going to hand it to you in 1 second, Candace, but I want to say at one point I had a guy come to me, and he had been in a 25-year relationship. He had ignored the warning lights. He didn't take action, and he came home one day, and his flat tire was that the house was cleaned out, furniture, everything. He had gone to work that morning. She had showed up with the moving vans, and basically his wife of 25 years gone. And now he's coming to me going, is there anything I can do? And I'm going, probably not. I mean, there could be some miracle, but that's a point of no return. And I've worked with people that have had affairs, that have had the relationship almost blow up, so close at the edge of point of no return. But I try to let them know it's never too early to improve your relationship, but there is times it's too late. So anything to say on this interesting metaphor here, Candace, of the tires?
Mm. Oh, hey, and I feel like it, like we were talking about internal and external conflict, internal, external compassion, really knowing yourself, being able to be intimate with yourself is the way that you would be able to notice your own warning lights. If you are not, as well as, you may be able to notice things going on in your relationship or with those around you. Yeah.
So that, Candace, another wonderful nugget. Thank you. We're about to dive into that. Another word. So people are getting. I'm known as the metaphor master. So you're getting multiple metaphors, and I actually have one in front of me, and it is chewed on, but it's an acorn. And there's a book out that says "Don't sweat the small stuff," and I say wrong, 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 so wrong. And here's why. And I'm admitting I haven't read the book. One day the author may come to me and say, "Buddy, read the book," and then I'll be so busted. But basically, I disagree with the title, and here's why. I think in relationships, it's so much easier to deal with the acorns than it is the oak tree. So, Candace, there's a picture of a little acorn, and then there's a picture of an oak tree that fell over on somebody's house and literally split the roof in half. So a lot of times, if you don't deal with the little things, and Candace, you kind of nailed it. Like, if I don't notice that I'm starting to get triggered, then all of a sudden there's a big upset about something silly. It could be about the dishes. It could be about laundry. It could be about not having sex, about having sex. It could be a really simple thing. But what it is an acorn that turned into an oak. So what are some of your early warning indicators for yourself, Candace?
I just thought of a moment. If I'm getting really sensitive, like if I'm getting ready to go out with someone and I dress up or whatever, and I ask them, hey, what do you think? If I get a blah response, like not even just, what I mean? It doesn't have to be negative, but if I get a blah response and I take it really personal and I go and change my outfit or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's one of my little girly things that I know. And I've seen myself, like, I start really sweating the small stuff,
And
Yep.
it's important to set your partner up to let them know, I'd really like to hear. It's important to me to hear how I look. And it's like letting them know it's really important. This makes a lot of sense. So when I love this, we're diving into the triggers, and what happens is when emotions goes up, intelligence goes down. Now, what people want, and I've said this a bunch of times already, is we want to be heard, understood, and valued. No matter what's going on, that's underneath it. And if you want to resolve conflicts quickly, it's leaning into their world. Now, the thing is, if you are upset with somebody, there are ways of expressing it that are going to cause them to back away and not want to listen to you. And there's other ways that cause them to want to listen to you. So I'm going to bring up one more slide, and then maybe people can tell me what are some of the biggest triggers that they have. And Candace, this is a list that of things that create conflict and trigger people. The romance is gone, needs not getting met, feeling neglected, lack of intimacy, financial issues, affairs, jealousy, broken agreements, communication issues, lost trust, conflicts, past wounds, how decisions are made or not being made, exes, in-laws, politics, careers, any of those possible triggers?
The needs thing. As a blind person, like if I'm dating somebody or relating to somebody and we have plans or they're coming over or something, if it happens regularly that they don't ask if I need anything, because it's hard for me to get certain things and get stuff, or I don't get to get out a lot. So I have certain needs that I'm not able to meet on my own. And I really, really like it when those that I'm relating to remind me or let me know that they're there to help and help me get my own needs met, basically. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And see, we come from a culture that has need shame. Because if you have a need, then the next thing up is you're needy and there's something wrong with you. And people that come off and go, well, I'm never needy. I go, oh, I'm sorry, bullshit meter goes off. And I can get anybody to be needy in 2 minutes or less. All you've got to do is take a deep breath in and hold it. No, keep holding it. You hold it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe tops, and you're going to be incredibly needy for oxygen. And so what happens is needy is a feeling on the scale of how important getting a certain need is. And making friends with our needs helps resolve so many conflicts, because we go from needs shame to needs embarrassment to needs embrace. Need shame is I feel like I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. I shouldn't have these needs. If I was only a perfect person, I wouldn't need this. And then the embarrassment is I know I have these needs, but I'm embarrassed to ask you for them. And if I have to ask for them, it means there's something wrong with me or something wrong with our love, or you don't love me. So when I'm embarrassed, I want you to read my mind. And when I embrace it, I can talk about my needs. Is this making sense? I see some thumbs up. I'd love thumbs ups, hearts, if this is making sense to you. So Candace, where do you, on that shame, embarrassment, embrace scale?
That's an area that I definitely have work to do. And that's why it's one of those sensitive things for me. Because I know I'm still struggling with accepting my heightened level of need, and embracing it, without judgment or shame. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a critical conversation. And the challenge is when you're blind, you can't ignore it. See, a lot of times I can pretend and ignore my need or not ask somebody or not be vulnerable. So I go through shame sometimes, depends on if I ask for a need to get met and then they kind of look at me in a certain way. I can feel shame, I can feel embarrassment, or I can embrace it. So it's definitely moved up the chart. I used to spend a lot more time in shame. Now I'm a little more time in embarrassment and embracing. Depends on the precious need. And if you want a remarkable relationship, what happens is your needs go from feeling like a burden to feeling precious again. Mm-hmm. All right. And what I'd love to do is when you have an aha, I'm talking to everybody out there in Facebook land, when you have an aha, if you want to share it with us, something that Candace said, something I said, something that would make a difference for you, what would it be like in your relationship, and if you're not in a relationship, think back on the last relationship or ships. What would it have been like if you could embrace your needs and your partner's needs and talk about them and communicate in a way that where you felt like your needs were precious, even if they couldn't meet them all the time? And nobody can. I'm not saying that that happens. All right. So Candace, on the screen now, I have the 3 levels. Like when we get triggered, it's alert, alarm, attack. And the alert is in the, I've made a band of green across the screen. So it's like green light, I'm in alert, I'm paying attention, but I'm not really triggered. It's like if I'm lying in bed at night and I hear something go clunk, I go, pay attention. There could be something there. There could be danger. If Candace said words in a certain tone or a certain pattern, or she used words of wrong, right and wrong, it's like I'd pay attention. I go alert. So then the next stage up is alarm. So we start at alert. And a lot of this is from the work of Stan Tatkin, and the book is Wired for Love. It's a great book. And so the brain goes from alert to alarm. So alert is, should I pay attention? That's the question. Should I pay attention? There's something going on here. Alarm is a new question. The question is there danger? Am I emotionally, physically, mentally under attack? And if I am, I move up, and what happens is I get in my reptile brain, and there's a picture of a dinosaur there, and it's the red light. It's under. So alert, alarm, attack. Candace, anything you want to say about those 3 levels? And I know the Wi-Fi is coming in and out a little here.
Yeah. You got it. It's good that you're able to notice when it does. So, again, just really for me, the big thing I keep coming to is taking that time with self, like in relationships, even as a non-monogamous person. Like I like to say, when I first start a relationship, sometimes I can get a little monogamish, and I spend a lot of time with them, doing things together, and I'm not spending enough time with myself and being alone. And then it becomes a little bit harder for me to notice when, before I get to the dinosaur phase. Yeah, that's the thing for me I got to watch for.
Well, and here's the important thing about how this applies in the world of conflict, because today we're talking about conflict. And when we're up in attack, we have several options. We have fight, flight, freeze. Now there's other options, but I'm just going to make it simple. Fight, flight, or freeze. And if you think about that, if you're in an intimate relationship with somebody, or even in any relationship with somebody, are those 3 options you want to be using: fight, flight, or freeze? If not, here's the critical thing. What we have to do is we have to get somebody back out of this red light area, the red light district. So we got to get them out of the red light district back down to yellow or green. Now, a lot of times what we try to do doesn't work. In fact, it makes it worse. So remember at the beginning of this call when I said my arm hurts and Candace said, no, it doesn't. And we went back and forth and basically bantered a little bit. What happened when she said, no, it doesn't, is I got into my reptile brain. Now I know we were just playing, but the more that I didn't feel heard, the more dangerous Candace seemed to me. And the more I had to fight, the more that she seemed like the enemy. And if I don't want to get in a win-lose, fight situation and exacerbate things and make the conflict worse, what I have to do is get me or Candace or both of us back down to the yellow zone. So Candace, let's do a quick exercise there to just show them that. And does that make sense to you, that it's the 3 layers, the green, the yellow, the red, alert, alarm, attack?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this time you can say something to me and I'll be the one not listening.
Okay. Man, it is really hot in here. I wish my air conditioner wasn't so loud. I feel so sweaty and icky.
Well, it's just a short call. There's no big deal. You don't, what's wrong with you? Everybody else is sweaty and icky too. So why are you special?
I don't like it.
Well, just change your mind.
Just change my mind?
I can feel it from, I'm on the West Coast, she's on the East Coast. I can feel it from here.
I'm good with the facial expression sometimes. I'm like,
I know, it's like, so one of the things that once she's triggered, I want people to get this. Like, if you stuck it out till minute 47, which you are at right now, you deserve to walk away with something that is profound and powerful. It is not the only thing, but this is the key to help take somebody from red light to yellow light. And then we'll talk a little bit more about that. But there is something that you can do. So I'd love for somebody to type this in. And it's just an expression that goes, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now?
I'm chuckling because I just think, like, depending on how red light I am, just that level of nicety would trigger me. Yeah, I wouldn't even believe that they actually care. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd be like, oh, you don't really care, Quit trying to play nice.
So you're so pissed off, it's hard for you to believe that anybody can even be with you right now.
Yeah. Yeah, get away from me with your niceness.
So you need some little kick ass. You'd rather, so that it feels real and authentic and not just like fluffy.
Potentially.
And you'll notice that all I did was lean in, follow her lead, and she's back with us, even though it was just a role play. So I'm wondering if this also makes perfect sense, because there was something else we covered and Gretchen said makes perfect sense, and we love that feedback. So what we're trying to do is, once somebody's in, or once you're in, let me back up there, call it, the red light district. And I have nothing wrong with the red light district, so I'm not trying to make a negative connotation about that, but it just is memorable when you're in that red light area. Well, I'll start with green light means things are fine. Keep going. We can talk about anything or almost anything. Yellow light is I'm starting to get a little triggered, and I might need to slow down, or I might need, if it's a conversation with Candace, I might need to know more about our connection and less about the content. So slow down on the content and make our connection a priority. This is about preventing getting into the red light. When we trip over the line into the red light, I can say red light. Red light in my relationship, it means stop. It means stop right now. Mid-sentence, mid-word, I will stop right in the middle of a word. And it's like, if you watch those old James Bond movies, James Bond has spun out his car on some chase along the Moroccan coastline, and it's hanging on the edge. And if somebody comes by and pushes it with their finger, over Bond goes along with his car. But so when it's red light, if you keep talking, it's almost guaranteed to get worse. And so what happens for me, there's several things. If it's a little red light, my partner can ask, honey, what do you need to feel safe right now? And I can answer it. If it's a bigger red light, I might need to go, you know what? I need to go for a mountain bike ride now. I need to do something physical. I need to get out of the house and calm my nervous system down. Because if I try to talk to you right now, I'm reactive versus resourceful. So write that down. Reactive versus resourceful. When you're in red light, you're reactive. When you're in green light, you're resourceful. When you're in yellow light, you're in between the two. So Candace, anything you want to add to this colorful collage?
Yeah, it's one of the things I was thinking, like, depending on my red light, but, I often, as a sensitive person, will feel like I need some space. But I also like coming back to like being silent together in a cuddle. Or eye gazing, or giving each other a little bit of massage, taking a bath or shower, experiencing some nice silent intimacy, or meditating or doing yoga together. If, you know what I mean, you're feeling like you can be together. Yeah.
So those are all things, when I said about yellow light, about connection versus content. Mm-hmm. To reconnect, to do quiet time, to do meditation, go for a walk, do something to connect versus content. So, thank you for that. Here is the important part of this whole conversation, where you have your options. And I offer this at like the end of almost every one of my calls, because I want people to know that there's a difference. I'm going to switch it back. There's a huge difference between information and transformation. Information, if you go online right now and typed in relationship advice, now I don't even know what's happening with Google. The last time I did that months and months ago, I got 96 million hits about relationship advice. There are tons of information out there. What people come to me for is not about information, it's about transformation. Transformation is, how do you take the information and implement it and make a difference in your life? So there are 3 things you can do right now. If you got something from today, and today was just sort of an introduction to what is conflicts, what makes them worse, what makes them better, what you can do to resolve them. And right now, what I want to do is ask you how different your relationship would be if you could lean into conflicts and meet them with courage, compassion, and curiosity. Or if your partner met you with courage, compassion, and curiosity. So option number 1, do nothing. Now, I just got back from Mexico, where they pulled 2 teeth out and put 3 metal implants. And a metal implant is where they drill a hole in your jaw and drive a screw in there and then screw a tooth in there. Now, why I'm telling you this is because I was working with the do nothing dental plan for years. I did nothing. And then what happened is it was self-sabotage. I was hoping and praying that my teeth would somehow heal themselves and fix themselves. Well, that didn't go well. And that's the same thing in relationships. I deal with relationships that are in conflict, that are stuck in a rut, that are sabotaging all the time. So the do nothing plan, you can do that, but it's really painful. The second plan, and I've done this one too, this cost me 1 divorce, 4 broken engagements, the do it yourself plan. The John Wayne, I'm going to figure this shit out by myself. And I did learn a lot. And I've probably spent in those years of traveling around the world, I probably have spent $60,000 to $70,000 and traveled all around the world learning from people. Like I worked for Tony Robbins, and I would travel around with him at times. And then I've traveled to Sweden and Hong Kong and Russia and Croatia and all. I've been around the world learning and teaching. So you can do it yourself, or you can do it with a mentor. And Candace is a mentor. I'm a mentor. I work with a guy named Scott Katamas who runs Love Coach Academy. He teaches mentors. And what happens when you get mentored or coaching, you learn and grow quicker, and you can turn decades into days. So that sounds exciting and fun. You can talk to me. Now, my book became a #1 bestseller. I'm talking about myself, a little embarrassed here. I'm talking about myself, and then I'm going to hear from Candace, your wrap up. It became #1 in counseling. This is in Amazon in the category of couples and family therapy, marriage, healthy relationships, and even #1 in dysfunctional relationships. I didn't even know that that was a category. My video on intimacy, and it's all about Tantra and sacred sexuality, has been seen. When I did this, it said 5,800,000, and it's now over 6.2 million times. It blows my mind. If you want to know more about any of this, you can get a hold of me at arguelesslovemore.com/message. arguelesslovemore.com/message. That will send you to my Facebook Messenger, and you can ask me how to join my Facebook group, which is the Courageous Love Show group. You can talk to me about having a breakthrough session with me, which is about 15 to 20 minutes long, and we look at where you are, where you want to go, what's in the way. Or you can say, I want to talk to Candace and see about getting a breakthrough session with her, because I more connect with her. And the last thing you can ask about is getting a free copy of my book, a PDF. I'll tell you how to do that. So thank you so much. Candace, what do you want to wrap this up with?
Yeah, thank you. This was an awesome conversation. I am a tantric and sacred sex coach and educator, both for individuals, couples, and professionals. And this is my jam. I love talking about it. We have a show tomorrow, Fun Frolicking Friday at 1 p.m., where we'll be talking about connecting with nature and ecosexuality. Yeah, so please do check us out, and we'll be doing some stuff on Clubhouse as well, and the Tantric Awakening group. Yeah, some cool stuff around, so please do check me out, see what's going on, link up, link in.
Thank you so much. People, if you could put in what you got from today's call. So I see, thank you, Terry, for saying it's helpful. If you could tell us what it was that you got out of it, that would be great. The other thing is, if there's people that you know who you think would get something out of it, you can put their, just tag them or whatever, hashtag them in the comments so that they can watch the replay. So if you think about it, remarkable relationships to have a remarkable relationship, you need remarkable relationship skills. You wouldn't say like, I just went to a dentist. I wouldn't want to go to a lucky dentist. I want to go to a skilled dentist. I want to go to somebody who's practicing, because I don't want to trust my teeth with just anybody. But in a lot of ways, we trust our heart. One of our most important, vulnerable things, we trust our heart with anybody that's not trained in the world of relationships and love. So that's my close. I do these calls Thursday at 6 o'clock West Coast time, 6:05, and Sundays at 4:05. Join us. Thank you so much. Hey, have a great night. Thanks, Candace.